Warning: Tongue and Geek contains heavy spoilers. If you haven't read, watched, or played the content being reviewed this episode, know that we will definitely spoil major plot points. Also, this show isn't for kids. We use words like and and it would take too much time and effort to edit them all out. Please don't tell our moms. Don't stop, we're in luck now. Don't stop, there's so much to be found. We can find paradise. All we have to do is go, free your soul. Dragon soul. Konnichiwa, lovely listeners. Welcome to the first anime episode of Tongue and Geek, where two more white guys on the internet give their unsolicited opinions on all things geeky. I'm Isaac.
I'm Tyler.
And today we will be talking about the most normie level of anime series, Dragon Ball Z, specifically Dragon Ball Z Kai, which is a revised version of the original anime, which was based on the Dragon Ball manga by Akira Toriyama. We're specifically going to be looking at the Saiyan Saga for this episode, which covers the first 18 episodes of Kai, that are focused on the arrival of Raditz, Nappa, and Vegeta on Earth. We usually do like a little background segment, but I don't feel we need to get too deep into the background of Dragon Ball itself here. Like, I can cover a little bit of that. Instead, I'd like to cover our personal backgrounds with this, because we're on very different levels of fandom on this one. So, I guess I'll go first, because I'm the longer-term fan. I grew up, didn't really watch Dragon Ball when I was younger. I had some friends and some cousins who watched it. In middle school, I had heard from a friend to check out this abridged series online, which I had no idea what that was. It was Team 4 Star's abridged series of Dragon Ball Z. So I actually saw the abridged series first before I watched the anime, and I fell in love with that series because Team 4 Star is just freaking hilarious. And I decided to check out the actual Dragon Ball series, the actual DBZ. I started with the manga because I was kind of intimidated by the long episode list, a long episode count. So I read through the manga, and then I watched through the original Dragon Ball anime, which I loved. And then I watched part of the original Dragon Ball Z anime, and to be honest, I never finished all of the original Dragon Ball Z anime just because I found the pacing too slow, and there's a lot of filler and a bunch of stuff that just kind of turned me off from it. And having
pissed off a bunch of
I'm going to do that.
School fans.
I know I did. I'm going to speak my mind though. I find the original Dragon Ball Z anime, the pacing's really bad. There's whole episodes where guys will just stare at each other and not throw a punch, and it's just like, that's no good in an action series. But then I checked out Kai, which is a lot closer to the manga. It cuts out a lot of the filler, not just in filler arcs and episodes, but in like the middle of fights. They don't just like stand around talking and monologuing and staring at each other for long periods now. They actually like fight. And I fell in love with Kai, so that's my history, I guess, with Dragon Ball. Tyler, you want to give yours?
Yeah, but first let me preface mine by saying yours is a very roundabout sort of way to get into
the
series.
Is.
I would have figured you were totally the kid that came home to watch it on Toonami after school.
No, I was actually one of those dipshit kids who was like, why is your comic book backwards whenever I saw manga for like the first few times? I didn't understand it, I didn't get it, and then I checked out Team 4 Stars Abridged on YouTube, and I was like, this is hilarious, I wonder how the original series is. So late middle school, early high school was when I finally got around to checking out Dragon Ball.
Interesting. For me, I was the perfect age to watch it and get into it when it was first airing in the States. But for some reason, I never did. I don't know why I never watched it. I was aware of it. I remember kids talking about it on the playground and like acting it out and stuff because, it took over. Maybe I thought it looked stupid or boring or something, and I just never gave it a chance. But throughout the years, like, it's become such a cultural touchstone. Like, it's one of the anime that came over to the West that like really introduced the West to anime in general.
Yeah, it is the jock of anime. It's like the popular jock in high. If anime was a high school, Dragon Ball was the popular jock.
And just through pop cultural osmosis, like I feel like I already have watched it just because like I know all the characters' names like Goku, Cell, Frieza, Vegeta, Gohan. Like
yeah,
I know them by name. I even know them by appearance and stuff like that. But I've never actually just watched it, even though I've always wanted to. But of course, like the long length of the original port with all the filler and stuff like that, the original series was intimidating to me as well. And I heard about Kai, I think through you originally.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that sounds cool. I'd like to watch that, but like you can't freaking watch it anywhere. It's not available. So I just never got around to it until one of my sister-in-law's boyfriend actually bought the whole series on Blu-ray, overpriced Blu-ray.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey man, so when are you gonna let me borrow that? So that's how I started watching it. I just started watching it a couple weeks ago, and I fell deep. I'm totally into it.
He is. It's wonderful. It's wonderful watching this from like an old time fan's perspective, because I tried to get you into Dragon Ball a few times. I lent you the manga. I told you like, hey, just check out these episodes and stuff, and you're like, nah. I think I'm good. Or you checked them out a little bit and you're like, it's still not for me. And then just all of a sudden you send me a Snapchat of like, I'm doing it. And I'm like, okay. And then like 2 weeks later, you're like, I have already watched through the first like 50 episodes. Like, you just blasted through them. It was amazing.
I guess the time is right.
Yeah. I mean, I am all about it. So we're going to have a really interesting dynamic between the two of us, with me having a lot more experience than you. I wouldn't say that I'm certainly not the biggest Dragon Ball fan. It's been hugely influential on me, and I love the series, but I wouldn't call it like my favorite anime. Like, I love the series, don't get me wrong, but it's going to be interesting to talk about, because whenever I think about talking about Dragon Ball, it's like, what can I say that hasn't been said before? But then we have your lens where you're like seeing all of this for the first time, so we're going to have an interesting dynamic this episode. I guess I will get into a few of the specifics about the series' background. So the manga was created by Akira Toriyama. It was released from 1984 to 1995. The original Dragon Ball anime ran from 86 to 89, and then Dragon Ball Z ran from 89 to 96. Dragon Ball Z Kai was released in commemoration of the 20th and 25th anniversaries of the Dragon Ball Z anime, because Kai's technically separated into two series. It's Dragon Ball Z Kai and then Dragon Ball Z Kai, the final chapters, which covers the Majin Buu saga. They weren't originally planning to cover the Buu saga for some reason. They just decided, hey, we're just going to stop after Cell. So those released from 2009 to 2011, and then from 2014 to 2015. The biggest differences between the original Z anime and Kai, there's some visual differences. Kai's in HD, it's got clearer visuals, different ratios. Like I said earlier, they cut a lot of the anime-only content and filler. The original Dragon Ball Z anime is 200, just Z, not all of Dragon Ball, is 291 episodes. Kai, in its total, is 167. So that's a lot of stuff to cut out. That's almost half of the episodes that they managed to cut down or cut out entirely.
Yeah, that's absolutely nuts to me.
Yeah, it's crazy, like how much there was in the original series. And like, I'm not gonna act like all of the filler in the original Dragon Ball Z is bad. Like, there's a lot of iconic moments. Like, we were talking about how there's an episode where Goku and Piccolo go to get their driver's license. Like, that's a favorite. It's a fun little one to do. There's some episodes in the Saiyan Saga that have Vegeta and Nappa stopping at a planet along the way and just blowing it up. A little more. Some of them add some cool details, like what the Z fighters actually did when they were training to fight the Saiyans. But really, what cuts down the original anime is just the sheer volume of filler in between things. Like I said, the pacing is just awful in the original anime. I'm gonna piss off so many OG anime fans, but it's just so slow. They just stare at each other for episodes at a time, and they don't throw punches and they don't fight. And it's like, this is an action series. Pick up the pace. Come on.
And even in Kai, I've noticed there's still some of that. Like,
yeah, Dragon Ball
stand around and give each other the Western stare for a while, and then kind of talk at each other, and then go at it. So
Dragon Ball
even in Kai, if that's around, so for the original to stretch out even more, I'm just like, oh.
Yeah. Dragon Ball always did that anyway, just because it's sort of the way Akira Toriyama worked. He set a lot of the standards of how shonen works, where, people will stand around, have monologues in the middle of battles and stuff. A lot of influence on later shonen series. But, when you top that sort of style is fine, but when you top it with, filler in between things, where it's just, stretched out even further, it's just unacceptably slow. So, for all 5 Dragon Ball fans who are still listening, some of the other differences, they re-recorded the voice track with mostly the same voice actors from the original. This is interesting. There was actually a new soundtrack, but because of plagiarism claims, they restored the original Dragon Ball Z soundtrack for the Blu-ray and stuff. But when it originally aired on TV, there was a completely different soundtrack, which I heard mixed things about. A lot of people hated it. A lot of people thought it was cool. And, one other big difference that I kind of hate about Kai that I do like about the original Dragon Ball Z. Dragon Ball Z Kai was released, at least in the West, on, Nicktoons and stuff. And because of that, it was aimed towards, younger audiences. And they censor a lot of the violence. Not in, the actual fights and stuff, but, the blood. They cut down on the blood. I noticed in the Saiyan Saga, whenever Piccolo uses his attack against Raditz and Goku and blasts a hole through both of them, instead they just make it a big bruise on both of their chests. It's we saw that beam pierce their chests. You're not fooling anyone. We saw those two die. In the original, they have big gaping holes in their chest, and in Kai, they just have these big dark bruises, and it's come on, man. We all know what just happened there. So that's kind of obnoxious, but it's not a deal breaker by any means. And those are, I think, most of the main... some dialogue changes to make it closer to the manga.
I didn't know it was censored, but a few characters have been beamed through the torso already, and it's just left kind of the black smear smudge bruise thing. And I'm I wonder if that's
Yeah, that's censored. Yeah, in the original you could actually see, although I think some of the early Western dubs censored it too. But, in the original sub, you could definitely see, the gaping holes, the blood coming out of it. It was a lot more brutal. Kai just cuts down on some of the blood and stuff, but not a deal breaker, just kind of obnoxious.
Alrighty then, now that we got some background out of the way.
Yeah, let's get into the main thing. You have any points you want to start out with, or should we jump straight into a recap?
I guess I will jump into my sort of initial thoughts when I started.
Yeah, go for it.
I knew that Z was a continuation of the original Dragon Ball, but I didn't know to what extent. So the first episode just kind of drops you into the middle of this ongoing story, and I was okay, I know that's Goku, and I know that's Piccolo, and I know that little kid Gohan's his son, but who are all these other characters, and what the... It took me a second to kind of catch up to what it was doing, but
I was gonna say what a lot of a lot of new people who want to get into Dragon Ball don't know is that the manga was never... It wasn't called Dragon Ball Z until much later on when it was published. It was always just the Dragon Ball manga. So when they split the anime into Dragon Ball and then Dragon Ball Z, people were oh, I can just start with Z because that's the ones everybody's talking about. And it's that's just smack dab in the middle of Goku's story. They really don't take any time to reintroduce the characters or anything. Kai has a little weird intro where it actually covers some stuff that was supposed to come up later in the anime, and it kind of spoils some of the surprise later on. You don't know that Frieza destroyed Planet Vegeta until the middle of the Namek Saga in the original Z, but in here they just start off with them showing Frieza blowing up Planet Vegeta and Goku's dad Bardock trying to stop him, which was I thought that was kind of weird to just throw that in at the very beginning instead of saving that mystery for later. But I guess it was a way to...
Dad, spoilers.
Huh?
I didn't know that guy was Goku's dad.
They
Spoilers.
say it. They tell you that. Yeah.
Oh, I guess I don't remember that little bit.
You must have missed that. I mean, he's not going to come up again because he's not technically canon. He was an anime-only edition. He wasn't they don't really go into Bardock in the manga.
Okay.
Yeah.
Weird.
He's cool, though. We should definitely watch the Bardock special. He's a very interesting character. But yeah, it really does just throw you in. It's like, here's these characters. Oh, the world's in danger. This guy's an alien. Let's do this. In fact, it throws even more at you because whereas the original Dragon Ball is all like martial arts, fantasy, action series, suddenly it's like, oh, we have aliens and space, and Goku's an alien, and this is his brother, and it just starts throwing ideas at you out the gate.
Yeah, and it took me a second to kind of adjust to that. Well, I'm like, well, yeah, this is your fault because you didn't, you didn't watch Dragon Ball, so
Yeah.
you kind of should have expected this. But it's easy to catch on. I was just like, okay, like there's an old green-looking Piccolo up in heaven, I guess, and he's got the creepy-looking, like genie-looking guy with the red lips.
Yeah, the racist genie, blackface, Mr. Popo.
Mr. Popo.
Yeah. Do you know
that the character? He's fun, but I'm just like,
Do you know that Mr. Popo was actually originally censored too for Kai? They made him blue.
Yeah, I saw they made him blue.
Yeah.
Like when they aired it on Nickelodeon or something like that.
Yeah, on Nicktoons. It's God. Yeah, some things didn't age well from Dragon Ball.
And then like Goku dies in like the first or second episode.
Yeah.
And like goes to heaven. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna have to strap in here.
Yeah, that's crazy that they kill the protagonist in the first like 3 episodes. Like, that was a bold choice for Z to start with. Granted, they were following the manga, and that's where the manga just kind of was at the time. But like, if you had no idea if you didn't watch Dragon Ball and then just suddenly Goku's dead, it's like, what the hell's happening?
Yeah, I mean, I said that. I'm like, huh, okay.
Yeah.
So I wonder how long he's going to be in heaven. Oh, it's a while. Yeah. Okay.
He's going to spend a year up there while the Saiyans arrive.
This Saiyan comes down to Earth, Raditz, who is apparently Goku's brother.
Mm-hmm.
And he's all like, hey, you're my brother. Hey, you were supposed to conquer this planet. And Goku's like, what? And through the YouTube series Death Battle, I knew that, like, there was this huge like rift in geekdom because they made 2 videos with Goku versus Superman.
Yeah.
And like the dislike ratio and the comments on both of them are just like, this is bullshit. Goku like super. Mm-hmm. So like I knew there was this like thing between like Superman and Dragon Ball Z.
Mm-hmm.
But then like watching just the first couple episodes, I'm like, this is inspired by the Superman story.
Yeah.
Like completely. Like, not to the point where I'm gonna like say it's a ripoff. It's obviously like done with like love and affection.
Yeah.
But like the Saiyans are basically just genocidal Kryptonians.
We talked about this. This is kind of a predecessor to Invincible in a way.
Yeah, kinda.
Because like Invincible's all about turning the Superman mythos into like, what if they were bad guys, and like that's exactly what the Saiyan race is. They're a race of like murderous, like civilization conquering warriors, and like their civilization blew up like the Superman mythos. It's like it's very close to the same storyline as Invincible.
I think it's an interesting dynamic that they're like this proud warrior race, but like at the same time, like they're basically just like middlemen for other powerful people who want to like conquer worlds.
Yeah,
that's like an interesting sort of like dichotomy because they're just basically godly guns for hire.
Pretty much, they're strong enough to be mercenaries, and they don't really give a crap about conquering the universe. They just conquer for others. They're like, hey, pay us money and we'll go beat people up. We were going to beat them up anyway.
Unless you're Vegeta, then they don't care about conquering the universe.
Yeah, we'll get to him. So yeah, Raditz, Goku's brother, shows up on Earth, demands that Goku join him in conquering the planet, killing all life on Earth so that they can sell it to someone else. He kidnaps Gohan. He's way stronger than anyone Goku's ever faced. Goku has to team up with Piccolo, who was one of his biggest enemies from the original Dragon Ball series. And together they fight Raditz and manage to kill him, but only by Goku sacrificing himself. So, episode 3, our protagonist is dead. Piccolo, who's been an enemy this whole time, kidnaps Gohan, and everybody gets told, hey, 2 more Saiyans, way stronger than this one, are on the way to Earth. So, 3 episodes in, we're already like, hot damn, the stakes have risen so high.
Yeah, by episode 3, that's when I decided I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
First 2 episodes, I'm like, okay, this is kind of interesting, but I'm not sure if it'll really grab me. But once Raditz and Piccolo and all them start battling, and like there's like life or death stakes. I'm just like, okay, yeah, this is kind of cool.
Let me ask you something real quick.
Yeah.
How you feel about Raditz?
I like his design.
Mm-hmm.
I like he's just a thick, beefy boy with beautiful, luscious, thick black hair.
Yeah.
But he's kind of a little bitch.
He is a little bitch.
He's kind of a little bitch. I was kind of disappointed he got killed off so quickly because like he has this familial connection with Goku.
Yeah.
But he just made him dying just made way, for the cooler Saiyan characters.
Yeah.
Essentially.
That's what I was gonna talk about, because like that's a big thing in Dragon Ball is like people talk about like, man, Goku's brother just showed up and he's like dead and he's never coming back. We're never gonna talk about him again. We're never like he feels like a bit of a wasted potential because like he's Goku's familial connection and he shows up demanding all this and then he's just gone after they kill him. So yeah, Raditz is a bit of a letdown just because like, oh man, there's so much they could have explored there with like Goku's brother and Goku having to come to terms with like his heritage through his familial connection, but whatever. We've got better Saiyans to fight.
Piccolo was interesting for me because I don't think I knew that he was a villain.
Mm-hmm.
I just knew he was the green guy with the cute antenna on his head, and
the big slug boy.
So when we're introduced to him and he's like monologuing, "Oh, I hate Goku, I'm gonna kill him," I'm like, okay, there's a whole backstory there I completely missed.
Yeah, you started reading the Dragon Ball manga, haven't you?
I did. I started reading the manga because there was too many characters I wasn't familiar with that I wanted to know about.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly Piccolo's backstory and all of Goku's friends like Tien and Yamcha, and Krillin and all that. I didn't start at the very beginning because it would have took me too long to catch up. And when I started it, because I started reading it before when you let me borrow it, and like the first couple chapters didn't quite grab me, so I'm like, let me try to find like a good midpoint.
Yeah.
Where like I won't be totally lost. So I just started with the second Budokai tournament where they introduced Tien, and that was an easy kind of launch pad. So
you've definitely at least got to go back to the first Budokai tournament because it is beautiful. There's definitely a shift after the first story arc in the original Dragon Ball where it goes from being sort of a parody to Journey of the West to being like an actual like action adventure series.
Reading the manga and watching Kai concurrently, it's this weird sort of mix of I'm getting the backstory I want, but for two different mediums.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they have different names in the manga, which is a little
Krillin is Kururin,
and they don't call Tien. It's
Kenshin
longer. Yeah.
I think in the anime they actually like changed some of his clothing that had he has like a hat at one point that I think says Kururin. I think in the anime they change it to say Krillin instead. So yeah, Goku's dead, Piccolo's stolen his baby, and the Saiyans are on their way. So what I think is really cool about Dragon Ball is the world building, and what I mean is like there's so many different like aesthetics going on. Like the afterlife has like a heaven and a hell and everything, but it also has like planets and stuff, and like this whole hierarchy system with the Kais and everything. And like we get to see glimpses of that where like Kami's like the protector of Earth, but that puts him at like the bottom of the totem pole under like the judge of the dead, and King Kai, who's like the ruler of like all of the galaxies in this area of the universe and everything. So it's like there's all this really quickly done but really fun and enjoyable world building just sort of thrown in there where like hey, Goku's dead, now he gets to explore the other world. He's still having an adventure. He's not like it's not like a depressing thing. He's just off doing something else somewhere else.
Yeah, what struck me about it early on, especially when Goku's on the Snake Way and going to King Kai, like I knew that it was probably going to be funny because a lot of anime, especially shonen anime, there's humor in it. Mm-hmm. But I didn't quite know how irreverent this would be. Like, it's literally half comedy. It's not just like epic action and peril. There's a lot of humor.
Yeah.
Like, and it's funny humor. Like, some of it's like genuinely hysterical. Like King Kai just like has a thing about being funny and telling jokes, and I don't want to repeat anything verbatim because one, I'd butcher it, but it's just really funny, and like the dub, because I'm watching the dub.
Yeah.
The dub dialogue, the performances are good, and there's just like some really funny like non sequiturs and one liners, and a lot of good visual comedy.
The visual comedy, especially in Dragon Ball, I love Akira Toriyama's style because he can switch between like very serious, like action heavy sequences, and then just like corny goofball slapstick real fast, and it doesn't feel like out of place when he does it. It all feels like it's connected, which is great. I love King Kai too, because you like before he actually gets there, he's built up as like the most powerful of the gods and everything. Like, he's the one who's going to train you in like the most secret and powerful techniques in martial arts. And then you get there, and he lives on this tiny, itty-bitty little world where he's got like a one single driveway that he drives a car in circles around. And he has a pet monkey named Bubbles and a cricket. And he just
Bubbles.
he just Miyagi's Goku, like, go catch my monkey. Like, it's so funny.
Yeah, anything with Bubbles was just like hilarious.
Yeah.
And he covets this hot rod for no reason. He's just like omniscient being, and he just has like a hot rod he loves.
It's so great.
He's like, "Hey, time to take it out for a spin."
King Kai is so funny. Yeah, the only thing I wish we saw more of with King Kai, and I don't remember if they actually have this in the original anime. I think it was still kind of just skipped over. Is I would have liked to have actually seen more of the actual training sequences with Goku learning how to use the Kaioken, because it's such like a big deal in this first saga and during the Namek saga too. Like, it's Goku's signature move, and we don't really get to see Goku actually develop the skill to use it. And
you go 3 times Kaioken, 4 times Kaioken. Just keeps like 10 times Kaioken.
Oh, here's a fun fact. So Kaioken works as like a multiplier. Like, each stage of Kaioken multiplies your power by whatever the multiplier is. Technically speaking, Kaioken and Kaioken times 2 are the same thing. Yeah, because they both multiply your power times 2. I don't know why there's like a difference between them, because he uses Kaioken times 2, but that's technically the same thing as Kaioken.
You're thinking too much about it.
Yeah.
It's just cool watching people scream in love of power.
You have no idea the numbers game you've gotten into with Dragon Ball. You know how the whole point of Scouters is to show how they're stupid and ineffectual, and like the heroes constantly point out that like you can't actually judge people by those numbers? Yeah, Dragon Ball fans didn't get that memo. Like, Dragon Ball fans are obsessed with the numbers in Dragon Ball. Like, Goku had this power level at this stage, and if you add this multiplier to it, then it means he's got this level of power, and that means... It's like, man, those numbers mean nothing! The entire point...
Yeah, I mean, I haven't watched the whole thing yet, but I'm a good almost 40-some-odd episodes in, and it's been quite clear that, like, the numbers itself don't matter. It's, it's the training and the willpower, not, the math.
Yeah,
but
I'm going to do a plug here. Derek...
I'm gonna fan.
Derek Padula wrote a series of books called The Tao of Dragon Ball, and his first one... it's over 9,000, does a great job of exploring... Yeah, it does a great job of exploring why power levels are bullshit, and how, not just that, but they're also, like, an entire ideology that gets deconstructed throughout the series, specifically through Vegeta. If you want to check out that one, again, that's Derek Padula's Tao Dragon Ball book series. I think they're ebooks that you can get on, like, Kindle and stuff. But yeah, the power levels are just, they're bullshit. They're supposed to be, because it shows how, like, the entire worldview of these aliens were like, oh, you're prescribed this number at birth, and that is how valuable you are. That's where you are in the hierarchy. It's like, that's not how it works. Everyone has potential to better themselves and get stronger and more useful.
Yeah, and that's what Vegeta's been grappling with this whole time. Just, like, having his insane, just ego and superiority, like, thrown back in his face. I'm a highborn Saiyan from planet Vegeta.
I am a super elite.
These lowly, lowborn, how are they giving me a run for my money? I don't get it.
Yeah. Vegeta's the 1%.
He is, though.
He really is. It's a whole class battle throughout this entire saga and throughout the series. Jumping back on the recap, I guess the only thing we didn't really talk about was like Gohan and Piccolo when they're training. You want to talk about that some?
Yeah, I was just laughing to myself, internally because I'm watching it by myself.
Mm-hmm.
Early on, it says like Gohan's like 4.
Yeah.
And like he turns 5. So for an entire year, Gohan's father is dead.
Mm-hmm.
And they're training to fight these Saiyans.
Mm-hmm.
And Piccolo essentially is just abusing this child in the desert for a year to train him to be powerful enough to fight the Saiyans.
Piccolo just drops a kindergartner into the middle of the desert, and he's like, "Don't get eaten by a dinosaur. I'll train you in 6 months."
Yeah, just like leaves him alone to survive, and just like.
Oh,
but like he like forms like an attachment to him and becomes like second daddy. But like Gohan has been continually getting his ass kicked this whole time. I'm just like, he's 5. he's still here. He's 5. Krillin, be a better uncle and take him out of this.
I mean, what was Krillin gonna do? Tell Piccolo no? He's like 10 times stronger than him.
Oh, Krillin, you just...
Yeah, he's trying.
You do your best, Krillin.
Yeah. What I love also is that in the Dragon Ball community, like, it's a running joke that Goku's a terrible father because he's constantly absent and putting his kid in danger and everything. And everybody talks about, Piccolo's such a better dad and everything, but, like... Yeah, this this saga in particular, hell no. He just totally abuses Gohan and like forces him to like survive on his own and shit. And yeah, he has a few cute little moments where he does give him some food without him noticing and everything, but like he's totally just beating up a kindergartner and like leaving him alone for long periods of time. Yeah, it's not a healthy relationship at all.
But a lot of child violence in Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, they start him young. I mean, that was how old Goku was, I think, in the original. He was just a little kid who lived out on his own and fought shit all the time, so Gohan's just getting his dad's experience. But forcibly.
I guess.
Yeah. Goku was a little more, and we'll see more of this. Goku and Gohan are very different characters, whereas Goku is all like, oh, I love fighting and training and all this stuff. Gohan's like, I do this so I can stay alive. I've only known violence. I've only known violence since my childhood, and I have to do this if I want to survive. Daddy, please, come and get me.
Yeah, I'm gonna be curious to see if Gohan develops some sort of PTSD after all of this.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Goku.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the protagonist, Goku.
Yeah.
He's surprisingly not in it as much as I would have thought.
No.
The formula of the show, which has already been strictly established, just in what I've watched so far, is he'll show up, kick ass, and then when things are at their most dire, comes back to kick more ass. That's already happened about 3 times.
it's pretty much the formula.
It's a hell of a formula. I'm not knocking it because all like long running anime have formula, but it's. I smirk at it because it's so obvious. Like, I wonder how he's going to be taken out of commission this time, and I wonder what is going to heal him this time. Is it going to be one of the senzu beans again, or is it going to be something else?
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned this because in the original Dragon Ball that wasn't the formula because Goku was the main protagonist, and between the Budokai tournaments, which were tournaments, so like those were all like martial arts fighting during those. He did go on adventures and stuff, but he didn't really have like world-ending threats to stop. Like the closest he had was King Piccolo, which is Piccolo's dad, and even then, like he didn't. I guess that technically counts, where Tien briefly tried to fight off King Piccolo on his own, but for the most part, it was like Goku fighting these threats. And like his friends would come in and help when they could, but for the most part, there wasn't really like we have to wait for Goku to show up stage. It was really more just, hey, we're just going to, fight whenever we come across a bad guy. So this Dragon Ball Z, and specifically the Saiyan Saga, was really the beginning of this formula of like, oh, the bad guys will show up and beat the crap out of everybody else, and then Goku will finally arrive and do a bit of a curb stomp, but then he'll get taken out of commission for a while, and then, like, That cycle really only began with Z.
And I can't lie, despite it being a formula, every time he shows up, I'm like, oh, fuck yeah!
Yeah!
It's on!
I love seeing Goku show up. He's a badass.
And he's such a fun kind of hero because, like, he loves fighting, he lives to fight, but not in, like, an egocentric, like, you know, sort of Chad bro kind of way.
Yeah.
It's just sort of his way of, you know, finding balance and, you know, testing his limits, and he does it to protect the people he loves.
Yeah,
and
it's his life philosophy. It's like, this is how I find actualization and self-improvement, is through improving my physical limits. I think it might have actually been from that book, The Dial of Dragon Ball, but there's a quote where somebody points out that, like, Goku is Vegeta's rival throughout the series. Like, Vegeta sees himself as wanting to beat and overcome Goku, but Vegeta is not Goku's rival. Goku is Goku's rival. Goku always wants to improve himself, to better himself, and overcome his own limits, and that's his whole worldview. Like, I always want to become better than I was before.
Yeah, it's an interesting way to create a character like that, because he's a sweetheart. Goku's a little sweetheart, but he's also dumb as a box of rocks.
He really is.
I think I texted you, like, Goku's just a himbo.
He is. He has literal brain damage, for one thing, which we find out at the beginning of Z. But also...
Yep, forgot about that, yep.
But also just, he is a total himbo. He's just like, I like fighting, and I am good at nothing else. I have no other life skills.
He has this bit of reasoning, though, at one point, where I'm just like, ooh, Goku, are you sure about that, though? When they first have Vegeta on the ropes. Krillin's going in for the kill. And Goku's like, no, Krillin, don't. Yeah. I need to train harder and beat him again. And I'm like, Goku, though, but, like, he's here to destroy Earth.
No, that's actually a great point, because that shows, like, a sort of darker element to Goku's character. Like, Goku's first priority is to, like, improve himself through combat. He likes fighting strong guys because it helps him to, like, push his own limits and everything. His desire to protect others, while he has that, is secondary to his desire of self-improvement, which is, like, a very interesting thing to have in a main character. He could be, like, later on in the series, you'll see, it can put the world in danger, though, his ideology.
Yeah, I'm really, really curious to see how it plays out, because, like, so far, he's not into fighting in the way that he's just, like, aching to kick ass.
Yeah.
Like, when he shows up to, beat down Vegeta, oh, no, not Vegeta, the Ginyu Force later.
Oh, you skipping to Namek?
Yeah, just to make a point. When they're on Namek and he shows up to beat the Ginyu Force, Captain Ginyu. Like, he's mostly on the defense throughout the first part of the fight, like, he's just dodging. And, like, he's saying, like, come on, guys, like, this is your last chance, like, to back away before, like, I fight back. So he's not, like, showing up to be like, alright, y'all are gonna get fucking broken over my knee now, like... He's not bloodthirsty, but he lives to fight, which is like this. It's based on, like, honor and principle. Yeah, it's definitely interesting.
Yeah, it's the big difference between him and the other Saiyans. All the other Saiyans fight to conquer, to prove themselves better than everyone else, to, like, just out of bloodthirstiness. Goku doesn't fight for that reason. Goku fights because Goku wants to become a better martial artist, to, like, find self-actualization through that. It's why he and Vegeta make such good parallels, because Vegeta wants to prove himself better than everyone, and Goku wants to prove himself better than he was yesterday.
He does care. He totally cares about his friends and family.
Oh, yeah.
Because when he shows up to save the day, like, he doesn't just rush in and start punching. Right. He'll show up, give the villain, like, a stare down, but then go right to, like, Gohan and Krillin to make sure they're okay, give them a senzu bean if they need one, you know, comfort them first. Then he confronts the villain.
Yeah, so he's not cold
like
and heartless.
He's this weird mix of, but his sort of philosophy is really just kind of nuanced.
It's what I think it's what's great that separates him from, we talked about how, like, he's kind of built on the Superman mythos, and, like, I don't think anybody would ever say that Goku is just Superman, but, like, that ideology of self-improvement instead of just wanting to save people and be, like, the best, kindest person you can be. Like, he's a kind person, he cares about protecting others and everything, and he loves his friends, but the most important thing to him is self-improvement, and I think that's such an interesting thing. And, like, it becomes so obvious in other shonen anime and manga that, like, this is the formula that they pick up, because it's always like, I want to be the best, whatever. Naruto, it's like, I want to be the Hokage, and One Piece, it's like, I want to be king of the pirates. It's like, I always want to be the best thing that I can possibly be, and, like, this is what kind of set that standard for shonen protagonists of being like, I want to always be better than I was before.
It's interesting actually watching it now after so long, because I always just kind of assumed it was just this, like, cool, meat-headed kind of, like, beat-em-up anime, and it is to an extent.
It is.
But there's definitely more thought put into it than just, like, let's watch these muscle-bound things beat the shit out of each other constantly. Like,
yeah,
there's
a philosophy.
There's like honor and respect to the combat. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and you can see a lot more. I was gonna say you can see a lot more of that in the original Dragon Ball, because it's a lot more focused on, like, the sort of philosophy of martial arts and, like, what it means to improve yourself. Z kind of doesn't shirk it, but it kind of takes second background to the actual, like, space adventures and aliens and stuff they're fighting. But it's cool that you're still, like, picking it up even without, like, the background with the original Dragon Ball.
Yeah, because, the good guys, they train to make themselves stronger, but there's not much ego involved. But with all the bad guys, all it is ego and power. I need to conquer everything. I need to be the strongest. Like, I deserve to be the strongest. That's all it is for the bad guys. But with the good guys, it's just, hey, this is what we do. This is our lifestyle. Like,
yeah,
this is how we make ourselves better.
Yeah. And it's really cool. I really love that about Dragon Ball. And all the characters. It's a show about self-improvement and constant perseverance in the face of adversity. And as simple as that message can be conveyed at times, it's still very powerful.
Yeah, and now I understand why I have seen so many gym bros over the past, 25 years
absolutely.
In, Dragon Ball Z gear in the gym, It's just like...
Absolutely.
It's inspired people
to
self-improve.
Absolutely. Like, there's nothing that makes you feel more hyped up than just seeing this guy who spends his entire life trying to better himself take down some arrogant jackass who thinks he's better than everyone. Like, there's a lot of inspiration. There's a whole lot of inspiration to be taken from Dragon Ball. Getting back into the actual recap, so they all spend some time training. Goku's dead in the other world training with King Kai. He learns the Spirit Bomb and Kaioken. The Z Fighters, which is their unofficial name, is Krillin, Tien, Yamcha, and all them. They spend time up on the lookout with Kami training, which I wish we got to see more of what that actual training was like. I know in the original anime, this is something that they cut out that I kind of wish they kept in. They actually have, like, a bit of, like, what their actual training was. I think, if I remember correctly, they go to, like, an alternate dimension or to the past or something and fight, like, alternate Saiyans at one point to train, which is kind of a cool concept to, like, have them, like, here's some preliminary versions of the Saiyans to fight. Gohan and Piccolo are training in the wilderness, and then suddenly, after a year, actually a month early, the Saiyans arrive, Nappa and Vegeta. And I just want to say, I love the design choice for these two. Because you have Nappa, this big, hulking brute. Like, he's like 7 or 8 feet tall. He's just bulking muscle and everything. And you have Vegeta, who's like this short little runt. And like, he's like just kind of lingering in the background and just watching the whole time. But you always get this aura of menace from him. Because every time he speaks, Nappa's just like, sorry boss, I'll do whatever you say. Like, they build up Vegeta wonderfully during this saga, because the whole time Nappa's just smashing the shit out of everybody else. Like, he's constantly like worried that Vegeta's gonna step in if he screws up.
Yeah, it's episodes and episodes of just Nappa kicking ass, and it's like, if Nappa's this badass, like how badass is Vegeta? And so far, like they haven't flubbed yet, and I don't know if they will. But like every villain that they introduce, like they do such a good job of building up to it, and really showcasing just how powerful they are and how like up against the wall the good guys are.
Yeah,
like, and they've done that consistently with. First with Raditz, he was a bit tough to take down, and then Nappa, and then Vegeta, and then the Ginyu Force, and then Frieza. Like, it's constantly built.
Yeah, and
it's really cool to see how they work around that and how the good guys overcome eventually. Like right now at the point where their Goku is about to fight Frieza, and I'm just like, how is this gonna go?
Yeah,
what's he gonna do? What is he gonna do?
There's a constant escalation in Dragon Ball in terms of just their literal power, where they were basically planet busters at the beginning of Dragon Ball Z, and like they move on to being like galaxy and multiverse busters later on in the series. But like, there's a constant escalation, and sometimes I'll admit it's not handled the best, but for the most part, it's like every villain they come across, every obstacle feels genuinely and like serious. A lot of people will kind of criticize Dragon Ball for being a no-stakes series, specifically because of the Dragon Balls themselves, which, I mean, we didn't actually cover this, but everyone knows who has any inkling about Dragon Ball. The Dragon Balls are magical, wish-granting orbs. You get all 7 of them together, a giant dragon comes out and grants you a wish. And people talk about how...
I actually didn't know that.
You didn't know that? You watched the series.
No, I didn't know that. I didn't know that they granted wishes. Is what I'm saying.
Like, in advance.
When I first started watching it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, I knew some odds and ends about it, but I didn't actually know what the Dragon Balls did.
Yeah. So the Dragon Ball will grant wishes.
Cool to find out. They just grant wishes.
Mm-hmm. People will criticize Dragon Ball for being low stakes because, we can just wish people back to life. The Dragon Balls can basically just undo any damage or any threat. I don't see that criticism because, A, they set specific rules on the Dragon Balls, like, if you have been wished back to life once, you can't be wished back again, so you get, like, one do-over. And second, the Dragon Balls are constantly being endangered. They're tied to the life force of the Namekian who makes them, which Piccolo is... Like, Piccolo and Kami are the Namekians. Like, if Piccolo or Kami dies, they don't get any more Dragon Balls. No more wishes. Nobody's coming back to life. And, like, there are constant threats to the Dragon Balls. In the Saiyan Saga alone, the Dragon Balls are destroyed, and there's no way to bring back the lives of all the people who died. I don't get the whole, like, it's a low-stakes series, because the whole point is, like, yeah, we have these wish-granting objects that can sort of fix things, but we have to survive long enough to be actually able to use them, you know?
Yeah, and the ones on Namek get rendered useless, too, later on. It's not like they're just constantly around to take advantage of. Now, if we're talking sensu beans...
The sensu beans are a bit of a cop-out. They completely restore your health and stamina whenever you eat one. But again, go ahead.
Heavenly beans that are grown in some heaven that just, like, completely bring you from the brink of death. I'm like, I wish I could have some of that.
By a talking cat, no less.
Yep, and they look delicious and nutritious.
They probably are if they give you complete health restore. But again, those have limitations too. Like, he can only grow so many of those at a time. They don't have like an infinite stock of sensu beans just sitting around. So like, I don't get the whole low stakes argument. Like, there are multiple times when the entire universe is at stake, and you don't know if the heroes are going to succeed or not because they're constantly dying. You know, a lot of them get their asses handed to them throughout this series and die. So, yeah, I definitely see Dragon Ball as a series with, like, good stakes. I don't think it ever reaches a point where it's like, man, we just know how this is going to go. Everything's going to be fine. Like, it's like, okay, they may be able to fix this with the Dragon Balls later, but shit, it's going to be rough until then.
I don't know if on Namek, they're able to bring Piccolo back from the dead.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they're going to be able to bring back Yamcha and Tien and Shiatsu. No spoilers, I haven't gotten there yet.
No spoilers.
I honestly don't know. Like, I'm 50-50 on, oh, they'll find a way to bring him back, or maybe they're just gone now, and maybe there's just going to be, like, maybe a goodbye scene at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but I do know seeing them around in, like, you know, through my reversing of the fandom.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
Maybe they're dead, maybe they're not. I don't know.
Vegeta and Nappa show up. The Z Fighters show up, and everybody but Goku's there, ready to fight him. I love that they don't even start with, like, Nappa. They literally just, like, throw some stuff in the dirt and grow their own little fighters. It's like, hey, fight these things. We just want to see how strong you are. They're, like, so cocky. They're like, we just grew these fighters. Let's see if you're any better than these guys. It's also another thing against Raditz is that, like, they talk about how, like, all of these little Cybermen that we just grew are as strong as Raditz. It's like, wow, Raditz really sucked for a Saiyan.
Oh. Why was Raditz your, like, you know,
he was your
first man, you know, on the ground?
I guess because he was expendable. You know, they could afford to get rid of him.
I guess it's Raditz is funny because, like, when he first showed up, I'm like, hey, I recognize that guy. Like, I've seen him before. Mm-hmm. And then he's, like, dead a couple episodes later. I'm just like, oh,
yeah.
I guess he's not that important.
He's never coming back either. So yeah, they fight some Cybermen, and they manage to defeat them except for Yamcha. Yamcha's our first casualty in battle. He gets suicide bombed by one of them. It blows itself up, and we get the iconic Yamcha pose, where he's lying in the crater dead.
I didn't know that was an iconic shot.
Oh yeah, him lying in the crater dead. I have a blanket at home. It's just that crater that you can just, like, lay down. Yeah, in that pose. Whenever conventions whenever conventions start back up again, I'm totally just going to go out and just lay down in that pose every time I go somewhere. But yeah, Yamcha is our first casualty of war. And then Nappa joins the fray after they beat the Cybermen. And Nappa just wrecks shit. Like, Nappa just beats the fuck out of the Z Fighters. He killed Chaozu is the next to go. Chaozu tries to suicide bomb Nappa, does nothing. Tien gets his arm ripped off and then tries to fight Nappa and like collapses in exhaustion dead after trying to do that. Vegeta gives him, like, a temporary break just because he's like, hey, we'll wait for Goku. You said Goku's coming. We'll beat him up since he's, like, your best chance. We're just gonna beat him up to laugh at you. And they get bored after Nappa goes out and kills some, like, reporters and stuff. Like, Nappa goes out and just kills the media. Yeah, he just flies off and blows up some news helicopters and stuff. And he comes back and he's like, I'm bored, let's go ahead and keep fighting. So he almost kills Gohan, but Piccolo has his redeeming moment where he jumps in the way to save him. I love Piccolo as a character, and I think this moment is super important for his character. Like, him redeeming himself and finally being like, oh, I finally care about another person. Like, I'm not just a monster like I was always thought I was. Like, there are people out there who care about me. But you do have to remember that he spent this kid's past year just abusing him viciously. Like, I think people give Piccolo too much credit for being, like, a good father figure and role model for Gohan. And he gets better later on down the line, but, like, at this point in the series, he's literally just this, like, loner slug monster who decides to train Gohan because he needs an extra pair of hands to fight the Saiyans. What are your thoughts on the whole Piccolo redemption arc?
I like Piccolo. I pretty much like all of it because there's not a character yet that I'm just like, oh, get him away from me.
Yeah.
It's funny because if you look at it and judge it on, like, more real world sort of terms of morality, it's like there's a lot of crazy shit that's happening in this show. Like we were just talking about, like, Gohan's basically abused for a year. He's a toddler, essentially, and he gets his ass kicked. There's grown men beating the crap out of toddlers. But I think with material that is so obviously high fantasy, high sci-fi, like, their worlds just operate differently.
Yeah.
And while I'm not justifying taking a child out into the desert to train them to fight an invading alien force, at the same time, it's not, it's not quite the same as, it's not the real world is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So
And we'll see consequences of this down the line.
I can't sit here and be like, yeah, I was just basically saying how realistically, Gohan's a little baby child. He's, technically abused by Piccolo and he's getting his ass kicked by grown men and that kind of stuff. But this world is like so inherently heightened in fantasy and sci-fi that the morality of it is just a little different, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm not justifying like child abuse or anything like that, obviously.
Right.
And I'm sensing that they're not just gonna not address it.
Oh, they will.
That's just the feeling I'm getting. That I just get that feeling just about because this is essentially Gohan's show so far.
That's what I was gonna say.
Gohan and Vegeta are basically the main characters so far.
That's what I was gonna say is that Dragon Ball Z actually is sort of the story of Gohan, whereas the original Dragon Ball was Goku's story. Gohan serves much more as a protagonist in the sense that he's around more often, he sees more of the threats. Like, Goku usually defeats the biggest threat, but Gohan's around for most of them. So, Z is definitely, like, the story of Gohan sort of coming into his own, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but down the line you are going to see how this sort of difference in ideology, this difference in approaching fighting between Goku and Gohan sort of comes and fleshes out.
Cool. Yeah. Looking forward to it.
I'm glad you picked up on that because like it is a big thing, especially during the next couple sagas.
Yeah, because he's getting traumatized left and right.
Yeah, poor kid.
Like he's had like 3 emotional outbursts so far where he's just wrecked some shit.
That's the thing.
So
too.
It's like, okay.
Gohan.
I see what they're doing there.
Yeah, Gohan has this like rage boost that he gets every now and then, where he basically hulks out and like, yeah, it makes him more powerful and everything. And like in other series, we'd celebrate it, but like here, it's kind of like really sad and tragic because like he doesn't want to fight; he just has to survive. And seeing him get pushed to these limits is kind of heartbreaking.
Yeah, the the craziest one so far, or at least I was just like, yeah, Gohan, like you go, was when second form Frieza impales Krillin on his horn like it's nothing. Gohan's just like, yeah, and manages to like kind of take Frieza by surprise and kind of lay him out for a second. And Frieza's like, I gotta admit, for a second that actually hurt. I'm like, yeah. Gohan, you got one in good. Oh, now run the hell away.
Don't get me wrong. As sad as it is to see this child get emotionally like wrecked, it's also very vindicating to see him beat the shit out of the things that are like causing him trauma. Like, it's very vindicating to see him like he headbutts Raditz and like cracks his ribs whenever he like Raditz is fighting Goku. In the fight against Nappa, he has a few moments after like Piccolo is hurt and stuff where he slaps Nappa around a bit, and it's like, yeah, those are great little moments where you get to see him like lash out against his abusers. But it's still really kind of sad to see Gohan go through all this because he's not like his dad. He doesn't like fighting. He's just doing it to survive.
Oh my god, I absolutely loved it when the first huge bout between Vegeta and them is over. Goku's beat the shit, and like Chi-Chi and them show up, and she just like completely ignores Goku. It's just like, Gohan, my little baby, are you okay?
She literally vaults over him to get to Gohan.
And I'm like, you can't really blame her.
No, she shelters that boy. For good reason. This is a dangerous world. So yeah, Nappa kills most of the Z fighters except for Krillin and Gohan, and then finally, Goku shows up to fight, and it is such a rewarding moment where he just comes in and slaps Nappa's shit. Nappa is as brief as a character as Nappa is, because he's just in this saga. He is such like a fun to hate villain because he shows up and he's so cocky and he just beats the shit out of all the characters we like. And he's just like, oh, come on, you can do better than that. Give me a better fight. And then like Goku shows up and just wrecks him. Just beats the shit out of Nappa. And it's so vindicating.
This was the Nappa fight, right? Where Goku just kind of like spears him in the back, like with his fists, and he's just got him like draped over.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, and I'm like, oh, that's so fucking badass. And Nappa's just like,
yeah, he breaks Nappa's spine because Nappa charges after Krillin and Gohan. And he just like punches him, and then he reaches down and just breaks his spine and throws him to Vegeta. And it's like, damn, Goku, that was pretty damn brutal. And you think that's bad. Vegeta just takes Nappa's hand, throws him into the sky, and evaporates him. Like, which is a...
Yeah,
go ahead.
Vegeta has a vaporizing problem. He loves vaporizing people.
Mm-hmm. That's a great way to show just how cold Vegeta is, too, because this whole time he's been just standing around, watching, like... commenting on the fight, like, I can't wait for this Kakarot to show up and I'll give him a real fight, or I'll do something. But, like, this whole time, Vegeta's just been menacing, but then we see his partner get taken out, and he's just like, I don't give a shit. He just throws him into the sky and kills him, like, nonchalant. Like, the last of the Saiyans, too. Like, the whole thing is that, like, the Saiyan race is all but dead, and Vegeta just doesn't care. Like, he sees himself as the only Saiyan that needs to exist. He's willing to kill every other Saiyan in existence, but as long as he's alive, then he sees the Saiyan race as still, like, thriving and proud.
Yeah, I love Vegeta so much. He's such an entertaining villain to watch do his thing, and I guess I knew he was a fan favorite, but apparently he's, like, a massive fan favorite.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, I could see why. He's just like, he's the perfect kind of, like, you hate him, but you love him at the same time. And, like, you get these little glimpses of, oh, maybe he's softening a bit. But, like, he'll say or do something that's like, God damn it, you ruined it. Like,
yeah, definitely not in the Saiyan saga. He definitely doesn't show any of that softness here. Yeah, Vegeta is arguably more popular than Goku, I think. If I remember... I remember there were some polls at one point, and I think Vegeta won some popularity contests. But yeah, people love Vegeta. And for good reason. He's a wonderfully written character, and he's a wonderful counterpart to Goku. Whereas Goku, you know, he wants to fight for self-improvement. Vegeta's all about proving himself better than everyone else. He's the prince of all Saiyans, a super elite warrior, the best of the best. And he refuses to accept that anyone's better than him. And, like, the fight between him and Goku is just... it's phenomenal. Because you get all these great action sequences where you think, oh man, Goku's got the Kaioken, he's keeping up, and then Vegeta will just, like, knock him out of the Kaioken because he's like, oh man, you startled me there, Kakarot, but let me show you what a real Saiyan can do. And, like, Goku has to keep... we didn't really talk about this, but, I love I talked about this in our Animorphs review. I love power systems, and Dragon Ball is chock full of them.
Yeah.
I love the Kaioken as a form because it comes with an obvious drawback of, like, yeah, you get this temporary power increase, but if you lose control for even a second, it will wreck your entire body, especially the higher up you push it. So, this whole fight, you have Goku fighting against Vegeta, but also fighting to just maintain control of this power that's even letting him keep up with Vegeta. Like, on every front, it's like, man, all that training that Goku did, and he's still not good enough to knock this smug asshole on his ass. It's like, you don't know if he's going to be able to do it until you get that first, and honestly, one of the best in the series, beam struggles. That Goku Kamehameha against Vegeta's Gallic Gun is, like, one of the best beam struggles we get in the series.
Yeah, that was cool. And I'm like, okay, now I know why, like, beam struggles are such, like, a thing. Like such a meme, because they're fucking cool. They look awesome.
They're rad as hell. Like, the dirt dirt and rocks and the whole earth just starts cracking apart and, like, floating in the air around them. Like, the colors of just the blue and the purple smashing against each other. Like, it's beautiful to look at, and it's like, even though the characters are just technically standing on opposite sides of each other as these two beams of light are, like, moving towards each other, you can feel the energy of these two characters clashing, and it's such an iconic Dragon Ball trope, and this is where it starts, and it's such a good start for this trope, because it's just like, here are two people, their ideologies in conflict, their powers contested against one another in like this big, beautiful display. God, I just love that beam struggle.
Yeah, not good for the environment, though.
No.
They're constantly destroying and shifting geography of entire planets.
Yeah, it gets worse from here on out.
With their battles. So much worse. And I freaking love that Piccolo just blows up the moon.
Yes.
With no sort of like geological repercussions on Earth, like
We skipped over.
and, like fighting Goku, Vegeta's like and like he flies up to the moon to try and turn into a giant Saiyan ape, which they can do apparently. And he's like, "What? No moon?"
Shit. Yeah. That's the funny.
That's the thing that can happen in this universe.
Best part is that's not even the first time that happened. Roshi blew up the moon when Goku transformed as a kid. They just casually.
Where are they just getting these moons from that they can just blow?
They just wish them back with the Dragon
and
Ball.
not cause global flooding and other just environmental catastrophes.
But yeah, they don't really address the long-term effects of the moon constantly being destroyed to avoid giant apes.
Fair enough. I mean, he has to create his own like false moon out of energy, and then like
yeah.
Don't they have to use Krillin's head, the bald head, later on to mimic the moon to like get? Is it to get Gohan to change or to turn back, or to get Vegeta to turn back? I can't remember.
No, I don't remember Krillin's bald head at all being used for any of that.
Somebody's bald head definitely was used as a makeshift moon at some point.
I don't remember that. Like, the moon was still in effect up in the sky, and Gohan transformed into a giant ape later. I don't remember Krillin's head being involved.
I know that definitely happened. I've been watching it in such succession that like some of the finer details are already a bit lost.
Yeah.
But I know that definitely happened at some point with Krillin's head.
Was it in the manga? Was it like maybe in the manga you read? Because that might have been in the original Dragon Ball.
I might be mistaking it for a part in the manga. I'm not sure.
That definitely,
but either or it happened.
That's definitely something that Akira Toriyama would have done. That definitely sounds like his style, but I don't remember that part specifically in Kai. Yeah, so the giant ape, Vegeta transforms, and, like, he gets way stronger than Goku, who was already, like, pushed to his limits from using the Kaioken at, like, ×4, and he just wrecks Goku's shit. Like, Goku's trying his best to gather up a spirit bomb, but he can't get enough time, and he's just dodging for his life, but Vegeta just beats the shit out of him. That's another thing I love about this whole fight between Goku and Vegeta, is that, like, people constantly point out how, like, oh man, Goku's always stronger than Vegeta and everything. During this fight, Goku doesn't win on his own. Goku only wins this fight through the help of, like, Krillin and Gohan and Yajirobe all coming in to save him towards the end.
Fucking Yajirobe. Okay. I can say that there's a character I don't like all that much, and it's Yajirobe.
Yeah. Yeah, he's just kind of like I'm a constant coward, and I'm not really gonna help, but I'm strong for some reason, but I really don't want to fight.
Good for you for taking off the tail.
Mm-hmm.
The weird Saiyan tail, but you're one hero too many in this story.
Yeah, he's just kind of a joke character. So Giant Ape Vegeta beats the shit out of Goku. Krillin and Gohan come back. They manage to cut off Vegeta's tail, turn him back into a regular Saiyan. He's still stronger than anyone there and up. They keep fighting. They finally get Vegeta with the spirit bomb, and it doesn't work. It doesn't kill him. He just gets back up and keeps beating the shit out of them. And, like, the only way that they eventually win was that Gohan grows his tail back, conveniently, and turns into a giant ape himself, and then crushes Vegeta under his naked body as he transforms back into a little kid.
Yeah, a lot of man-ass in this show, which...
There really is. We
get full-on child Gohan ass. Mm-hmm. There's also... This is the Namekian arc. We're skipping ahead, but there's this one episode after... what's his name? One of the Ginyu Force guy. Raccoon. After he gets beat, like he's missing half of his uniform, and like he's just kind of
he's face
unconscious
down
on
in
the ground.
Dirt.
face down, ass up, and there's so many shots specifically composed where his ass is like meant to be seen either in the foreground or the background. I'm just like, the sense of humor in this show is just like, it doesn't stop even in the midst of like the dense battle.
Yeah, everyone's dying, and then you have just a dead naked person in the background. It's great. Yeah, what I love about the Saiyan fight, specifically the Goku versus Vegeta one, is like, even though it goes on for a long time, like the fight with Nappa went on for a long time with all the Z fighters joining in, but like this fight between Goku and Vegeta is like, okay, you've got the first stage where like Goku powers up against Vegeta, then you get the beam struggle, then you get Goku versus the giant ape, then you get Krillin and Gohan like holding him off while they charge the spirit bomb, and then you get like the spirit bomb didn't work and now we have to fight him like again, and then you get Goku, like so much stuff happens in this fight and none of it feels like, it never reaches the point where it's like, okay, let's just finish this up. It's always like, what the hell? I can't believe this happened. What the hell? I can't believe this happened. It just keeps escalating bigger and bigger and bigger until it finally ends with Vegeta broken under a naked child, which is not the way you would have thought this fight would have ended at all.
Yeah, the fights themselves so far have done a really good job of not feeling repetitive. There are repetitive elements, like, I guess they're just kind of tropes of the show, or like, oh, we're just going to stand around and watch our enemy power up for 5 minutes. And
yeah.
When it gets to the actual combat, it never just feels like, oh, they're just doing that again, or we're just doing this again.
Yeah, everybody's got unique attacks, everybody's got different fighting styles, like, it never feels like, oh, they're just, you know, kind of, like, people will say this about Dragon Ball, they're like, they're just kind of standing around, like, punching each other real fast, and it's like, yeah, but, like, pay attention. Like, the way that it's choreographed, these characters are doing, like, martial arts moves, and, like, they'll throw each other into mountains, and use their, like, energy in different ways. Like, Krillin creates the Destructo Disc, or I think they call it the Kienzan in the original, and in Kai they call it, because that's its actual Japanese name, and he, like, creates, like, a disc of energy that's powerful enough to actually cut through people. Like, he actually hurts Nappa with it, even though he's nowhere near as strong as Nappa. All these different characters have different fighting styles, and every fight feels unique instead of just like another repetition of the one before it.
What was I gonna say? God damn it! Every episode, I have a point lined up, and then it just, I guess I'll just blame it on old age.
It's fine. Anyway, let's finish up the recap, and then we can hit any major points. They managed to beat Vegeta. Vegeta crawls back to his ship, and we mentioned this earlier. Krillin actually gets up and prepares to kill Vegeta, and Goku tells him not to. He says, I want to fight him again later. I want to prove that I'm stronger. Which is a bit of the dark side of Goku's character, is that, like, he's willing to endanger himself and his friends if he can get another good fight out of it later on down the road.
Yeah, and you can kind of, I mean, it's kind of Goku's fault that Frieza ends up showing up, because we later learn that Vegeta's little jaunt to Earth wasn't part of the mission. He did that himself,
yeah.
Like without orders. So it's not until Vegeta limps back to base on Namek or whatever that, you know, it brings attention, you know, to Frieza and what he was doing. So it's kind of like, ooh, you know, whether Toriyama and all them like intended for like Goku's actions to have repercussions in that way.
I'm pretty sure Toriyama's on the record for talking about Goku being like, he's not a traditional hero in that sense. He has some darker elements to him like this. Like, I think that's very much intentional in that Goku's not always thinking of everyone's best interests. Sometimes he's selfish and he wants to just fight strong guys, even if it endangers others' lives.
Yeah, it totally took me aback when he was like, no, Krillin, don't. Yeah. I have to fight him again. Yeah. Even Krillin's like, what? What the hell are you talking about? Are you nuts?
Yeah. It's a character flaw, and an interesting one. I think it really adds to Goku's character because, you know, he's not just the traditional sort of Western hero where it's like, I'm doing my best to fight for my friends and protect what I love. He's like, yeah, those things are important, but most importantly, I want to fight strong guys and get better at fighting.
It's not completely, you know, unheard of to have like your main hero kind of bring shit upon himself and others. Like, just for a high profile example, Iron Man, he's had a whole franchise built around his mistakes coming back to haunt him.
Yeah.
But I'm far from an anime expert, but I've seen enough to where, like, I haven't seen a protagonist yet in the anime that I've watched who's characterized in the way that Goku is. Because most protagonists that I've seen are kind of purely drawn in that way. Like, they're just innocent, or they might be a bit of a baby, or they might be a bit immature, they might be a bit naive, but they just want to be the best.
Yeah.
Like, and they just sort of fall into the danger.
Well, I think with a lot of, specifically with like shonen anime and manga, like you definitely see the influence of Dragon Ball.
It's cool having this, because
I was just going to say, you get to see the influence of Dragon Ball on all these other series, and you see a lot of protagonists, like in Naruto and One Piece and such, where you get sort of this more simple-minded protagonist who, you know, likes to fight and fights for their friends and everything. But like I was saying earlier, with Goku, it's specifically, like, the hierarchy is, I want to fight strong guys and improve myself, and second to that is, I want to protect my friends and all that I love. And with every other anime protagonist, it's switched. It's like, I want to protect my friends and all that I love, that's what's most important to me. And then second is, like, I want to fight strong guys and self-improve and everything. So, like, Goku's... That one switch of, like, priorities is what makes Goku such an interesting protagonist, in that, you know, he's not always going to make the right choice. He may sometimes make a selfish decision in order to do what he thinks will make him a better fighter, a better person, even if it endangers others. Like... It makes him a very interesting character, and sometimes the fandom, you know, calls him out for that bullshit, but, like, I think that character trait is so inherently tied to Goku that, like, I wouldn't want it any other way. It makes him so unique.
Without spoilers, does he get called out in-universe at some point?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. A couple times, actually.
Cool. I keep comparing the show and the characters to Sailor Moon because Erica, who was on Erica, my wife, who was on the show before, she's a huge Sailor Moon fan, and watching Sailor Moon has kind of been a big part of our relationship, and I see so many parallels between the two.
Yeah.
I keep thinking, like, Goku and Usagi, Sailor Moon, would be great friends. Like, they would be such good friends. And, like, the difference that we've been highlighting about Goku's characters, like, look at Usagi from Sailor Moon. Her first goal is to protect her friends. She's a bit of a ditz. She's a klutz. She, you know, can kind of get carried away. She's a bit of a crybaby. And but, like, when her friends are in danger, that's when she steps up to the plate. Even though she might not want to, she might be a little scared. But it's honestly, it's gotten to the point where I'm actually kind of interested to try to read some, like, fan fiction. Like,
you want to read some slash fic of Dragon Ball and Sailor Moon?
Not slash fic, none of that. But, like, and I'm not trying to poo-poo on fan fiction. I know it's a huge community. I know there's amazing talent in it, but it's just something I've never been able to get into. Maybe I just haven't found the right story. But, like, because Sailor Moon's been such a part of my life, and it's important to me in that I share it with my wife, and I'm becoming such a fan of Dragon Ball Z, and I see so many similarities between them. I'm like, I want to see a crossover. I want to read a story where they meet, and they have to fight an enemy, and they become friends, and all the interactions. And
that's adorable.
So maybe I'll task Erica, because she is fantastic at weeding out good stories.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll task her with finding me one.
Yeah, send it my way, because I would love to read something like that too. Yeah, I mean, everybody, whenever these shows came out, they called Sailor Moon, you know, Dragon Ball for girls, and, you know, I think later on it kind of flipped and people were like, Dragon Ball is Sailor Moon for boys. It's
boys, yeah.
But these two came out next to each other, and people couldn't help but compare them and contrast them to each other, you know. Sailor Moon, for all of its action series, is more of like a typical like young girls series where it's about, you know, friendship and the trials of everyday life in like a sort of regular world that's occasionally interrupted with monsters and stuff. Whereas Dragon Ball is a series about like high fantasy and sci-fi action sequences with monsters and stuff in a world that's not anything like our own. So, like, there are a lot of similarities, and there's a lot of differences, but...
and they're both the properties that introduced...
Anime to the West.
The West. Yeah. Anime to the West. Like, it's Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball. Like, those are, like, the big two.
Yeah. They're the popular kids of the anime.
And it's really funny. We're kind of going off on a tangent, but I don't care. Like, that's what podcasts are for.
Yeah.
The whole filler discussion, I've noticed, like, I'm still pretty much a noob. Do people still say noob? I don't know. I'm old. I'm still a casual when it comes to anime. I've seen a handful.
Mm-hmm.
I've liked a handful, but I'm not, like, in deep into the world of anime. But I know... just from what I've seen and what I've experienced in the fandom, that filler can kind of also be ubiquitous for bad.
Yeah.
And I don't technically agree, just because.
Oh, I don't at all.
Even though I haven't seen the Dragon Ball filler, I'll probably still at some point give it a chance. But the original Sailor Moon from the 90s, like, I think that show was made in the filler. Like, what made that show so charming and funny and memorable, a lot of it comes from the filler.
Yeah. Because
the 90s Sailor Moon was padded to the hilt with filler.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Dragon Ball Z was, apparently.
Yeah.
But it's funny how, like, sometimes the story lends itself to filler and sometimes it doesn't. Because, I mean, there are fans that are, original Dragon Ball Z all the way.
Yeah, manga purists.
And manga purists and people like you, or maybe a little bit younger, who watched Kai first and like, no, Kai's better. So,
well, what I'll say about the biggest difference, first off, I think there's definitely we use filler kind of for everything that's not from the original manga, but I think there's a big difference between filler and anime-only content. Filler being stuff that's like clearly just thrown in to kind of like pad out the show and, space it out so that the manga can catch up and, they can follow the story correctly. And anime-only content being stuff that's added in to actually, like, add to the world, contribute, like, new elements to the world, new story beats, new takes on these characters. And, a lot of the anime-only content from the original Dragon Ball anime is great. Like I was talking about earlier, the history of Bardock, which is Goku's father, that's anime-only content. It wasn't in the manga at all, and it's like one of the most beloved stories from the Dragon Ball canon. The history of Trunks, who you'll find later in the series, that's like anime-only content, and people love that. But what separates, I think, the filler/anime content from Dragon Ball versus Sailor Moon is that, like, Sailor Moon is a series that's designed around episodic stories. Like, each episode has its own little self-contained plot, whereas Dragon Ball is big, sweeping arcs where they're fighting, like, one villain for episodes at a time. And in an episodic series like Sailor Moon, you can, like, watch episode after episode after episode of, things that weren't in the manga, and it doesn't make that big a deal because, like, it's just, like, a new little story that's only going to last for 20 minutes. But when you throw it into, like, a series like Dragon Ball, it's like, God's sake, just punch the guy. He's standing right in front of you. You've been talking for 20 minutes. Like, it breaks the pacing.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at, but couldn't quite find the words. Just from watching the show so far and reading the manga, it's such an ongoing story.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I can tell so far, like, Kai so far, to me, because obviously I haven't seen the original, just seems so seamlessly edited and put together. Like, I keep thinking, like, well, where would they even put filler?
Everywhere.
But then our friend Dan, he was over the house and he noticed that I was watching Kai, and he's like, "Oh, have you seen Abridged?" and I'm like, "No, Isaac's told me that it's great." And so he's like, "Just watch like 2 episodes." And I did, and I'll probably get around to it later. It was funny. I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
But even in those first couple episodes, like, I was seeing shit that wasn't in Kai. I'm like, what is that? I didn't... when did that happen? Like, when did... what?
Yeah.
So...
yeah, there's a lot of stuff cut out of Kai. Like I said, it's literally, like, almost half the length of the original Dragon Ball.
Yeah,
And
it blows my mind.
yeah, some of it is really cool stuff that was cut out that I wish they kept in. There was some like little adventures that Goku goes on the like a long snake way that were cut out in the original anime. But overall, I think it's just you have to fix those pacing issues. Like those pacing issues are just too atrocious to be ignored from the original Dragon Ball compared to Kai.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna, once I finish Kai, I'll probably like look up like best filler of Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, we'll definitely watch
some of that stuff.
We'll watch the car episode and some of the other stuff. We'll definitely watch Bardock and History of Trunks. Those are killer filler, not filler, anime only episodes because like they've got such cool world building to them. But yeah, I guess that kind of covers the Saiyan saga. Oh, there's a couple episodes after they defeat Vegeta where, like you said, Chi shows up and jumps over Goku.
Doesn't give a shit about her husband.
Yeah, she's like, I don't give a shit, just give me my baby. And Goku's like beat to shit, can't even move.
I love how he's in the hospital just wrapped head to toe in bandages with nothing but his face.
Completely broken.
A great humorous moment was they're watching on TV. Shit, what are they watching on TV?
The Saiyan pod.
Yes, and like they're all like, and like Goku's trying. He's like, "What's going on? I can't see what's happening."
I love that Bulma comes in too, and she's like, "I can get us to space with the Saiyan pod. Just look!" And she presses the button and blows it up on television. Oh god. So funny.
I like Bulma's fun. She's a fun character.
Bulma's a really fun character, and you get a lot more of her in the original Dragon Ball because she was like one of the main characters who was around a lot. But she still like every time she's in Z, she's fun.
Just everything that's happening on Namek, like she's not doing much. She's
No.
just there for comedy, but like it's just like she's having the worst time.
She
It's
does.
just like, I hate this planet.
She does nothing on Namek. Like she literally just drove them there and then got stuck throughout the whole arc, and it's so funny. Oh.
She's just complaining that they keep leaving her behind, and like she's completely oblivious to like the danger that they're in and how they're getting their ass kicked. And she's like, I can't believe they're leaving me here. Like I'm so bored, and this is terrible. And then like a character like that can be very annoying, but like for some reason, like Bulma's very, very funny to me. I like her a lot.
There's a charm to like, because they're facing like world-ending threats all the time, and to have this one character just kind of be like a snappy little like spitfire in the face of that, despite having no personal power, it's like, yeah, you can't help but like a character like that, even though like they could die at any second. Like the fact that they're here and cutting jokes and being snarky is just hilarious.
Oh, I know what I wanted to bring up. I might be ruining a future podcast episode, but I mean, when the idea for a conversation strikes, you take it. I haven't seen the whole thing, but I have seen parts of Dragon Ball Evolution.
Oh.
The movie that came out into that. Do you remember that?
The shitty CG, like live action one?
The live action one. Yeah. I'm just like, everybody says Avatar the Last Airbender movie is like the worst fucking thing ever, but I'm like,
these are tied.
Is it worse than Dragon Ball Evolution? Because I've actually seen parts of Dragon Ball Evolution, and not having any attachment to the series at all, I'm like, this is fucking awful.
No, you know what? Evolution is worse, because as shitty as the live action...
A declarative statement. Yeah, there we go.
As shitty as the live action Avatar is, it mostly follows the plot of the original, even if it does like a horrendous job of adapting it into a new like format. The Dragon Ball Evolution movie creates a completely new plot that has almost no respect at all for the Dragon Ball lore, and it's a complete shitfest that has like nothing entertaining in it.
I'm glad I got a definitive no, this is worse than that.
Yeah.
Because I like, even today, people are still bitching about how terrible The Last Airbender movie is.
It is. It's awful.
And like, I have never seen it because, God, I'm like ruining all of my geek cred. I've actually never even seen The Last Airbender show.
We watched most of season 1, and then Tyler went, I don't want to watch this anymore. And I'm like, how dare you? This is one of the best animated series of all time.
You're completely ruining any chance of an audience we have by saying that I didn't finish The Last Airbender.
Well, they know I did, so I declare that it's one of the best animated series of all time, and we'll eventually get tired of watching.
I know it's considered that, and I didn't dislike what we watched. I don't know why I didn't want to stick with it. I guess it's because when we were watching it, I had to go to Isaac's dorm to watch it, and I just...
Well, give it a chance on your own terms, man.
It's definitely gonna happen at some point. I'm definitely gonna have to. I have a friend Mark who loves it, and he wants to watch it with me. So maybe I'll watch it with Mark.
Watch it with your real friends, someone who you actually enjoy spending time with. Bastard.
But yeah. What I was saying was I found it curious that how terrible the Last Airbender movie is still a conversation happening, but everybody seems to just have flat out decided to ignore that Dragon Ball movie that came out. So I'm like, I wonder which is worse. Like,
I think part of the reason that the Dragon Ball Evolution, because people point out that it's shitty. Part of the reason that Dragon Ball Evolution isn't as big of a conversation as the Last Airbender thing is, for one, there is so much more Dragon Ball content than there is Avatar content. Like, Dragon Ball Evolution makes up such a small part of the overall, like, Dragon Ball franchise compared to what the Avatar movie does.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And second, like, it's also pretty obvious that, like, Dragon Ball Evolution was just a way for, like, Fox to keep the Western distribution rights to Dragon Ball. Like, it was just thrown together for them to be like, hey, we can keep distributing this series because we made another movie with Dragon Ball slapped on it. Whereas, like, the Last Airbender movie had a big director tied to it. Like, Shyamalan at the time was a big name. It was, like, at the height of its popularity. Everybody was like, yeah, Avatar: The Last Airbender movie, we're gonna love that. And then it comes out and everybody's like, what the hell happened? Like, it was just the timing of it.
Yeah, that's a good point about the timing, because I didn't consider that, because I'm like, well, they both have comparable fan bases. They're both huge.
Yeah.
Like, Dragon Ball might be even a little bigger just because it's been around longer.
Dragon Ball is much bigger. As big of a fandom as Avatar has, Dragon Ball is one of the biggest franchises, like media franchises in the world. I think it's in the top 10.
I figured as much.
Yeah.
I just found it curious that, like, everybody just not conveniently, but just, like, decided, like, we're not going to talk about that, but then flip it over to The Last Airbender, and people are still talking about how bad it was. But you make a great point about how, like, there's just much more Dragon Ball content for people to enjoy.
Yeah, because Avatar only has, like, Avatar: The Last Airbender, The Legend of Korra, and then, like, a few comic series and maybe a handful of video games that they made, whereas Dragon Ball has, like, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GT, Dragon Ball Super, like, all the Dragon Ball, like, dozens of Dragon Ball video games, and, like, spin-off comics, and, like, all kinds of stuff attached to it. It's such a
manga. And how many movies? There's, like, 15 movies?
Oh, tons of movies,
like, animated movies, obviously. But.
Yeah. Like, there's so much more Dragon Ball to consume than there is Avatar, and when you have, like, a smaller franchise and it does something shitty, you feel worse about it because it's, like, such a bigger percentage of what your franchise is connected to.
Last topic, or maybe not last topic, we don't know. I remember, back when I was working at Home Depot, one of my work buddies, the movie Chronicle had just come out. Have you seen Chronicle?
Chronicle? What's it about?
It's the found footage movie where the teenagers get superpowers from a mysterious object.
I never watched that. I saw, like, the previews for it, but I remember seeing clips from it later on.
It's a very good movie. We should watch it. But it was found footage, and it played with the superhero concept. But being found footage, it was obviously low budget. And it ends with, characters flying around, hitting each other, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And my friend comes in Monday to work, and he's like, hey, man, did you see Chronicle? I'm like, yeah. He's like, that was pretty fucking good, wasn't it? And I'm like, yeah, it was really good, surprising. And he just goes off on this, like, you're telling me, like, say, man, that movie Chronicle, I know it was pretty low budget because it was found footage and stuff like that. You're telling me that they can pull all that off and make it look great in that movie, but they can't make a fucking good Dragon Ball movie? And he just, like, goes off on this rant. About how like they totally botched Dragon Ball, and like if they just tried, they can make a good live action Dragon Ball movie. And watching the show and thinking back on that conversation, I'm like, is there a chance with the right filmmakers, the right budget, that a live action Dragon Ball movie could be awesome?
I don't think we've had this conversation on the podcast yet, but like I am so hesitant to... First off, adapting anything from one medium to another is a very, very difficult task, because you have... Different mediums of art have different ways that they convey information. Like, when you adapt a manga or a comic into a TV show or an anime, you have to consider how, like, all the differences work when you actually put them in motion and everything. Like, there's so much to adapting it to a different medium. And I'm especially hesitant with adapting animation into live action, because animation is a format that specifically allows for such a fantastic view of the world, even in its more mundane stories. Like, even if an animated movie or series is about like everyday life in the real world, the way that it's drawn, the way that it is animated conveys the world in such a fantasy of the world. Like, it's so much through a creative lens that like you just can't really recapture in live action. There's so much to animation as a format that live action I just don't feel like can capture. I'm sure there are a few instances where like live action adaptations of animated series have been really good, but like for the most part, whenever I see anything live action adapted from animation, I'm like, why would I not just watch the animated version? Because so much work and effort and beauty went into this original version. Why would I bother watching a version where they're just filming people trying to imitate that?
That's completely valid. I mostly agree, but caveat. I think that the absolute glut and advent of superhero films can put that opinion to the test.
Right.
Now, I'm going to say something, and I don't want you to scoff.
Mm-hmm.
Just forget all the opinions around this for a second and just think visually.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at Zack Snyder's superhero movies. Think about the fight scenes that are in Man of Steel, his Justice League, BVS. Think about how fast and powerful those movies were able to capture Superman and his enemies and the hits and stuff. Like, there is so much anime-inspired imagery in those movies.
Yeah.
Specifically Dragon Ball-inspired imagery. Like, I'm watching the show, I'm like, God, like, that's some Man of Steel-looking shit. And, like, just reading comments on YouTube and stuff like that, like, do you think we could ever get a live-action Dragon Ball movie? And, like, I've seen a bunch of different people say, like, Man of Steel is like the closest we're ever going to get as far as like capturing the power of these characters in live action. And I'm not saying that, I'm not saying let Zack Snyder make a Dragon Ball Z movie. I'm saying the style that he used to depict those characters in those movies can be translated into making, at least visually, a very impressive Dragon Ball Z movie.
Yeah. Two things. First off, when we talk about live action nowadays, we are talking about CGI when we're adapting a lot of these things.
Completely.
Live action means that it's a bunch of computer-generated graphics that makes it look closer to reality. But yeah, I see where you're coming from, where like the action and stuff can be conveyed, and I certainly could see that. But think about the way these characters look, man. Krillin doesn't have a nose.
I was gonna say, the character designs are gonna be hard to translate.
Krillin
How do you tell the story in a condensed? Yeah.
Like, Goku's hair is all over the place. Vegeta's every character with hair has hair all over the place. It's spiky as crap and crazy looking, and like it looks awesome in anime or a manga. But when you try and put that in live action in like a 3D model, in like a hyper realistic model, it's like that's not gonna fly. And like, Dragon Ball specifically is so tied to this fantasy element of like, we're in a world that's like our own, but definitely not just like our own. There's dinosaurs still, and like animal people, and like aliens, and all this stuff that's like so different from the world we know. And trying to convey that in a live action setting, especially in a movie where you've got like a very limited time frame, I just don't see that happening in a way that's going to ever come close to matching the original.
I think, optimistically, with enough time and the right people, they can design something that could please most people. What I think would be the hardest to crack is, how do you tell the story? How do you condense the story? What story do you tell?
Yeah.
In a live action, like, because it's such a sprawling, ongoing, stretched out sort of narrative. Like, where do you start? You know, do you start with Goku as a kid? Do you tell kind of that story, or do you like start with him as an adult and just, you know, kind of like dole out exposition here and there? Like, do you start with Vegeta or Piccolo or Frieza? Like, what's the story that you're gonna tell?
Yeah.
In a Dragon Ball Z movie.
A Bardock special would be cool, because that's a short story. It's just like the story of his father, and it's only like 1 episode long. I think it was actually like a 40-minute special.
What story would you tell? Like, if you were in charge of spearheading...
I were in charge of a live action, I would probably do History of Trunks. And I've actually seen, like, I think fan films do that. I'll see if I can send one to you, where they try and do a live action History of Trunks. Or I won't send that to you yet. You need to get to that point in the actual story, but I'll send it to you later.
Yeah.
That story is very short, self-contained. I think it was another like 45 minutes, maybe hour-long special. That story in particular is closer to being grounded in reality because it doesn't have aliens and stuff in it. It has like androids that would look much more realistic and wouldn't be as hard to like convey into like a CGI or even live-action character. You wouldn't have to, like, make them look super fucking weird. They look a lot more realistic. And it's also just a really, really good story. Because it's the story of, like, something that happens in a future timeline. Yeah, it's really good. And the fan films I've seen online are really cool. I'll have to look that one up and send it to you once you get to that point in the story. Because it's just such a good story.
Is that what would sell to a studio and a wider audience, though?
For Dragon Ball, I mean, the fans would eat it up because the fans love the History of Trunks story. But, like, trying to convey it to a studio, like, hey, let's make one that's not got Goku as the protagonist, like, they probably wouldn't buy that. A studio wouldn't.
I think even the fans would want to see, like, the heavy hitters. Like, I'm not saying Trunks is a heavy hitter. I know he's a big character, even though I haven't gotten to him yet. But, you know, they're going to want to see, like...
They want to see Goku and Vegeta.
Goku and Vegeta and Piccolo and Frieza and...
Yeah. Like I said, I just don't see the point in putting all of this extra effort and money into trying to make something that I feel like can be better conveyed in the format that it's already in. Because the Dragon Ball Z movies are... Even when, like, their stories are crap, like, the action in them is just so damn fun and beautiful to follow. And, like... Battle of Gods and Super Broly are both like some of the most beautifully animated movies ever made. They're gorgeous,
really
big action. Broly in particular is just a crazy slugfest from beginning to end. It's insane. Like, they're fun as hell to watch. Like, I just don't see the point in trying to convey that into a live action setting when it's already done so wonderfully in animation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Duly noted. If I had to guess, within the next 5 years, we might get news that they're going to try to make another Dragon Ball movie.
I don't know.
Because I think Disney might have the rights now.
No, fuck, they do probably have the distribution rights. I don't know, actually. Shit. Who gives a shit? Disney owns everything.
Like, yeah, I mean, it's too much of a big IP for these conglomerates to just sit on and not try to capitalize on.
Well, they'd still have to go through, like, the actual Japanese studios and get their permission and stuff to probably make it anyway, but I don't know. That's a whole messed up thing. Let's get back to the actual series we were talking about, because we've gone on quite the tangent here. Was there any last details? Oh, the Saiyan Saga technically ends with Gohan Bulma and Krillin leaving to go to Namek and find a new set of Dragon Balls to wish back all the people who died. That's like the last episode that's technically considered in the Saiyan Saga. So that covers the recap. Did you have any final thoughts on the Saiyan Saga in particular?
Only that as a way to hook new viewers into a show, it does its job. It's not meant to be an introduction because like it's just a continuation of Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
But it's told in such a like an immediate and exciting way that even somebody who doesn't have all the context like me, like they'll get drawn into it just because like the design and look of everything is so dynamic. It's mostly well animated. It's funny. So I can see way back in the 90s why it, captured the attention of so many people.
Yeah. Yeah. I love this. I always kind of forget the Saiyan Saga. For some reason, whenever I think of Dragon Ball Z, I usually think of like the Frieza and Namek Saga and like the androids later on in Cell. I usually think of them as like the big sagas in Dragon Ball, but like this first saga in Dragon Ball Z Kai, I really like it because it does so much to set up the sort of differences between Goku and Vegeta and even just like the other alien races like Frieza and all them, and like why they're evil and how like their difference in ideology makes them evil. It also just sets up so many of the tropes that are going to come back later that while they can be annoying at times, they're also so iconic to the series and fun when they happen. Like, oh man, we gotta hold out until Goku gets here. I hope we can survive until Goku gets here. And also beam struggles, and like it sets up so much of what makes like Dragon Ball Z an iconic series. So yeah, I think the Saiyan Saga is great.
Yeah, agreed with everything you said. And I just love how it just firmly establishes the formula that's going to be in the show within this block of episodes. Like, even though it has no filler, like there's still like 3 or 4 episodes of just the Z fighters without Goku fighting the Saiyans, and Goku's just trying to fly his ass back down Snake Way.
Yeah,
and like it'll just cut to him like once or twice in an episode, like, "Hang on, guys, I'm coming." And that's all we get. It's just him, just
yeah. He's
like,
just
"Oh my
trying
god, Goku, get there already!"
Hurry up! Tyler doesn't like giving scores because his planet was destroyed by a math meteor.
Because I'm pretentious, and I haven't even seen Avatar: The Last Airbender. Give me a break.
Yeah, you expect him to know math. I'm gonna give the Saiyan Saga 300 out of 365 monkeys.
Bubbles out of 365 bubbles.
Yeah.
Or what about Gregory, the little cricket guy?
The little cricket guy. You can give him. We can make it Gregory's. 300 out of 365. I went with monkeys because that's what Frieza calls the Saiyans. He calls them dirty monkeys.
and they're technically big alien monkeys.
Yeah.
So.
I have some review. This is for the series of Kai altogether, not just the Saiyan Saga. I went to IMDb this time because I couldn't find a good like Rotten Tomatoes like conglomerate of scores for some reason. But on IMDb, Dragon Ball Z Kai is given an 8.2 out of 10, which is higher than I expected. I remember when Kai first came out, fans were divided on it because, people were like, oh man, it took out too much. It took out all the iconic bits and, they changed the soundtrack and stuff. But, like, people mostly love Kai. This is from Deus Ex Katrina. They say, the only version of Z you ever need to watch again. Dragon Ball Kai isn't just the best version of Dragon Ball Z, it's the only version of Dragon Ball Z anyone should ever watch. DBZ was bogged down by a nearly unwatchable amount of filler. What dragged Z down was the constant stalling. Scenes of people powering up for 2 episodes straight, replaying the same scene of people staring at each other 3 times. Entire episodes pass with absolutely no progress on the primary storyline. But Kai fixes all this. The great fighting and exciting story of Dragon Ball Z is finally, for the first time ever as an anime, brought to its due glory. 10 out of 10. And yeah, I completely agree with Katrina here.
Well, I mean, I can't say one way or the other, but I mean, because I haven't seen the original. I've only seen a quarter of Kai so far, but
yeah, you'll have to.
What I've heard from you and other people, the filler does seem pretty egregious, but I'm still gonna withhold judgment
until you go back. Yeah,
until I go back and see some of it. I mean, I'm glad something that goes back and completely re-edits and remasters something as beloved as Dragon Ball Z is mostly met with high praise.
Yeah. Let's look at the exact opposite of that review. ACDC_4680 says, Kai is just awful. I really don't understand why people praise Kai. I watched half of the Saiyan Saga, if that, and I just wanted to stab myself in the face and rip my ears off. The transition from old anime to new is just dreadful. They should have just redrawn the entire thing and added the original voices. Stay away from Kai and watch the remastered and uncut version, which is superior to this abomination. 1 out of 10.
1 out of 10.
There's only 2 actual things in here that they give a reason for why it's awful.
Yeah.
And one of them is they should have just redrawn the entire thing. There was some visual stuff that they did with Kai that makes it look brighter than the original Dragon Ball Z, because a lot of the cells, like the actual animation cells from Z, were lost, or I think actually just thrown away after they finished the series, which is a tragedy. So they did some stuff that recreated them, and because of that, it looks a lot brighter than Z did. But like, I don't think there's anything egregious in Kai that looks like wildly different from the original.
From what I've read and what I've seen so far, it seems that like there are brief moments and shots where like the animation is like updated and a little cleaner and smoother looking.
Mm-hmm.
But everything I've seen so far that I've noticed, it's pretty brief, and it doesn't seem all that. It doesn't really stand out all that much. Yeah. So I don't know what they mean by like they should have just redrawn everything.
Yeah, and then he says added the original voices. Like most of the original voice actors here are the original voice actors. There's a handful that they switched out because the voice actors died or retired, but like for the most part, these for both the dub and the sub, these are the same voices.
I did read that the 2 voice actors for, I believe it's Goku and Vegeta. Is Vegeta one of the people that was recast in the dub?
Vegeta had a different voice actor later in the series. Like in the original anime. Like in the Saiyan Saga, he had one English voice actor, and then they switched him out later on, which is why the iconic, like, it's over 9,000 line from the original anime sounds different than, like, his voice later on in the series. But, like, they use the voice actor that they used for Vegeta, like, in the original anime, just from, like, later on in the series.
I did read that 2 of the dub actors in Kai, one of them definitely Goku, it might have been Vegeta, might have been Piccolo, but one of the other main dub actors who was in both preferred their performances in Kai to Z, because I guess they just had more time.
Yeah, they've had more experience. They know these characters better. Yeah, Sean Schemmel, who's the voice of Goku, like, he's the same character. He's been doing Goku for years. He knows. There's one thing I love about the Dragon Ball sub. The voice actor for Goku is like a little old lady, and she's amazing. Like, you should just go and watch some clips of like Dragon Ball subbed, because she's got like a really like, Goku sounds completely different. He's like, I'm going to kill you! He's got like a high-pitched voice, and it's great. But yeah, I don't get this person's argument. Like, none of the animation stuff in Kai is so egregious as to make it, if anything, it looks cleaner than the original. Like, it looks better, and audio-wise, it's a different recording of the original voice actors, but like, it's still the original voice actors. They know what they're doing.
I mean, I can't judge. Obviously, I've said it a million times. I haven't seen the original.
Yeah.
But with something that has so much nostalgic power as Dragon Ball Z, like with so many kids that grew up watching the original version, like, for some people, you know, something that's different, it's just not going to sit right with them. And you know, I can't blame them. You know, I'm that way with some things too. Yeah. But like, I just like how this review doesn't really say anything critical. It's just like, this fucking sucks because it sucks, and it's not the original that sucks. 1 out of 10.
We'll do one more, because a lot of these reviews are just comparing it to the Z, and since you haven't seen Z, you can't really make a comment. But this one cracks me up. This one isn't even really a review. This is from Aldenish, I think is how it's pronounced. And Aldenish says, sequel idea. Here is my sequel is spelled with Sequal, by the way. Here's my sequel idea. Goku is over 9,000 and now has gray hair. After that, the more powerful he gets, his hair starts changing from yellow to blue to red to other endless colors. He's almost unbeatable at that point until he meets a kid who somehow rivals him after eating fallen hair follicles. 10 out of 10. I don't...
Fallen hair follicles.
I'm guessing this is a troll or something. It kind of sounds like he's talking about My Hero Academia, where, like, Midoriya eats All Might's hair to get his powers.
Is it a JoJo reference? Because apparently everything's a JoJo reference.
Oh, that's entirely possible, too. But it's just, I would love to see this weird sequel for Dragon Ball Kai that you've offered, Aldenish. It's such an interesting idea.
Don't they get blue hair at some point? I think, like,
yeah,
I've definitely seen, like, images of, in Super.
So far, God, I will just list all of the Super Saiyan transformations that I know of. I'm sure there are more that I'm forgetting.
You haven't seen Super yet, right?
I know enough about Super just from seeing clips and watching the movies and stuff that I basically know everything that happens in Super, but I've not actually watched it through. So there's the original Super Saiyan. Then there's a weird thing that happens later on where they don't technically go Super Saiyan 2, but instead they go Super Saiyan Grade 2 and Super Saiyan Grade 3. And then they basically retcon those to be just, those are just different forms of Super Saiyan. And then there's Super Saiyan 2, there's Super Saiyan 3. In GT there's a Super Saiyan 4, but I don't think GT's canon anymore. It gets weird. Then in Super, they introduced Super Saiyan God, and then they introduced Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan, which is the Super Saiyan Blue. Yeah, its canon name is
Super Saiyan.
Yeah, its canon name is Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan, and I think they make a joke in it. It's like, that's too much to say. Let's just call it Super Saiyan Blue. And then I think that's all of the Super Saiyan forms. There's another form that Goku gets in Super, but I won't spoil it for you because it's badass as hell.
Q. Yeah, you can tell I'm into it because I'm already like thinking, oh man, I can't wait to get to Super, and I'm only like 45 episodes into Kai. So
I love the Super movies. I've watched all the Super movies because the first two are basically the first two story arcs from Super anyway, and then this Dragon Ball Super Broly happens after Super. But I don't know about the actual series. I haven't actually sat down and watched it. I've heard a bunch of different takes on it. Like, a lot of people have differing opinions on Super. It's a little more controversial down the board of whether or not it's good, but I'm excited for us to watch that one too. Should we do recommendations?
I didn't even think of that.
I feel like it's so hard to recommend anything with Dragon Ball because so much stuff has been influenced by Dragon Ball. Like, obviously, yeah. I can recommend, like, go read the manga, or go watch the original Dragon Ball anime, or check out the movies, or even the Team 4-Star Abridged series. I love that. You can watch that if you're a big Dragon Ball fan. But, like, every shonen anime ever, Naruto, One Piece, Fairy Tail, all these different series, like, they're all inspired by Dragon Ball. And even Western stuff has been inspired by Dragon Ball. I can't think of a single thing that Dragon Ball hasn't touched over, like, the past 2 decades. So, like, I really don't know what to recommend. Like, if you haven't heard of Dragon Ball at this point, like, just watch Dragon Ball.
Well, I'll bring it back to Chronicle.
Yeah. There you go.
If you like powers and strength and displays of power and people, how people react to receiving extreme power, Chronicle is a good exploration of that. If you squint, it kind of sort of has a Goku Vegeta sort of thing going on with 2 of the characters. Okay. So you can check out Chronicle and Sailor Moon. Obviously, if you watch Dragon Ball, like, you probably have seen Sailor Moon.
Everyone, yeah.
But hey, if you're looking for a fun sort of inverse of Dragon Ball, watch Sailor Moon, because it's also beautifully animated, and it's funny as hell, and it's cute, and it's charming.
I love the art styles for anime from that period. The art style and the animation. It's just, like, late 80s anime was some of the most beautiful animation ever put to film.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I kind of I have a huge soft spot for just the hand drawn anime look. Like I said before, I'm not huge into the world of anime, but when it's hand drawn and it has that look and that flavor and that personality to it, I just find it infinitely more pleasing to the eye than a lot of the more modern, cleaner look of anime today. Yeah. It looks, a lot of anime that I've seen that's newer and more modern just has too much of a shine, a sheen to it.
It's almost too bright, too colorful.
Yeah, too bright, too clean almost.
Maybe that's what that guy was trying to say about Kai. So, watch Kai. If you haven't ever gotten to Dragon Ball because you were intimidated by the long episode length, 167 episodes is still a lot, but it's a lot less than 290 something.
It's not almost 300.
Yeah, it's way less than that. And
I can say I'm grateful for Kai because as much as I've wanted to watch Dragon Ball Z over the years, like it's always been the length. I'm like, even if I ended up liking it, I thought to myself, there's no way I'm gonna finish this. I'm into too much other shit to watch 300 episodes of an anime. So
that's a problem with shonen anime in general, like Naruto and God, One Piece specifically have these problems.
I'm on a One Piece mission as well. I started reading that manga, and I'm about 40-something chapters in so far, and I'm enjoying it, so
You ride that high, baby.
I'm gonna just try plowing through it as much as I possibly can.
Yeah. I'm impressed, because I've never had the stamina for that. I like stories. A lot of people will, whenever you mention that, like, anime and manga series like this that go on for long periods, they'll be like, oh, well, Western comics go on for decades at a time. It's like, yeah, but Western comics also have, like, multiple writers and multiple, like, interpretations and arcs and retcons and stuff that, like, constantly change the way that these characters are being written, the kind of stories that they're used in. It's not one continuous story beginning to end, same writer, same characters. It's like it's like a franchise when it's Western comics, where it's like multiple people taking different takes on these same characters. With anime and manga, specifically like shonen stuff, you'll have hundreds of chapters of manga or episodes of the anime, and like it's all one ongoing story told from this one person's perspective on these characters, and at some point it's just like, I want this to end. I don't care how much I love it. I need this story to end so that I can feel satisfied with the experience, Like, I know that's gonna, like, I'm gonna piss off a lot of shonen fans by saying that. A lot of people are gonna be like, you just don't understand, like, I like shonen anime. I love a lot of shonen anime, but, like, there's a limit to how much I can take in, and Dragon Ball already pushes that limit, so other series that go even longer, it's just like, I don't know if I can do it.
That's what made me want to try One Piece, because you hear two things. Like, there's the huge One Piece fans that are like, it's fucking amazing, it's everything, and then the people that are just like, it's just too much. But like, you know how YouTube rabbit holes go down. You find one you fall into, you don't plan on it. But I watched like a couple of like really lengthy video essays about how amazing One Piece is.
Yeah.
And then people are like no pressure, but like if any of this like sounds like it floats your boat, just give it a chance. Like,
floats your boat because they're pirates.
And like apparently the world building just is fantastic, and the characters like become so dimensional, and like it just gets better as it goes on. And I'm just like, yeah, you know what? A lot of this does sound pretty intriguing, so why not start it? So
good for you, man. If you keep going, I might follow you along, because like, it's always been a series that's interested me, but like, it's been a mountain I haven't been ready to climb.
Fair enough. I mean, it's over 1,000 chapters. I totally get it, and I'm only 40 some odd in.
Right.
So I totally get it.
And manga goes way faster than the show. The show's like 800 episodes plus, and it's already tugged my heartstrings 3 times so far in 40 some odd chapters. So nice. All right. Well, any closing thoughts on the Saiyan saga from Dragon Ball Z, Kai?
I'm just kicking myself in the butt for not watching it earlier, and this is how much I'm loving it. I was at McKay, which to people who don't know because it's mostly a retail thing.
Yeah.
It's this giant used media store with thousands of books, DVDs, Blu-rays, comics, toys. And I was just there putzing around, and they have loose Dragon Ball toys in the toy section for like $6. And I see them, I'm like, oh my god, I need to get one! And I got a Goku in his Super Saiyan form, and like I hadn't even gotten to the point where he goes Super Saiyan yet. That's how into it I am. I just had to get this Goku figure in Super Saiyan.
One of these days, whenever we get through Super or whatever, we need to sit down and we need to have our own take on the Superman versus Goku fight. We'll throw our own hat in the ring there. But we gotta actually get to Goku's peak before we can have that conversation.
And you need to read a lot more Superman comics.
Yeah, there's a lot more Superman I need to go through before I can have that combo too. Alright, well, this has been Tongue and Geek, where two more white guys on the internet talk about all things geeky. Thank you for joining us, and remember, you can't get back the time you spent listening to us.
Nope, not at all.